People sometimes ask me how I ended up being a culinary artist. It's not a field that is very well known yet, but basically my background study-wise is, like they said, in industrial product design and engineering. And I did a master's in sustainable design. Next to this, I've always had a big love for food, eating for one, but also cooking. And this is something that you can really easily share with other people because everyone has a relationship to food. So at some point after my master's degree, the two stories started to overlap. I started to get more and more work as a chef, as a professional chef, but also was still working in design. So, and throughout the years, these things started to overlap more and more, but organically. This was never a vision that I had beforehand. This was just something that grew that way. So the stories that I often tell have a deeper meaning. They have either an emotional background, a social background, or I'm trying to tell a story about, for instance, local farmers, how they grow their vegetables, or social impact of migrants moving somewhere. And these elements are very important to my work and the background of it. Next to this, sustainability, which runs through this talk today, is very essential to my work. And what is nice about food, and chefs for one work with food and express through putting food on your plate and you eat it in a restaurant, and everyone knows this kind of way of eating. But what you do as culinary artist is taking this audience out of their usual setting and putting them in a new setting. So you start by changing the setting, take away the table, you take away the plate, and you feed them in a different way. And by that, you basically open up their curiosity, and you can share a background story by doing so. So what is also important to me is collaborating. I think by collaborating, you basically get so much more in depth of a certain topic, and you can really inspire each other. So I'll show you a few projects. Some of them are collaborations, and I'll name the people that were part of the collaboration. So behind me you see the beautiful grounds of Chateau Laborie, and we were invited as a group together with the Onkruidenier. It's an Amsterdam-based collective consisting of Jonmar van Vlijmen and Ronald Boer. And together with Celine, who is on the far right, we basically spent a week long in residency at this beautiful estate. What we basically searched for was we had a look at the 4 different gardens. So for one, they have a permaculture garden where they grew vegetables. The garden where we're standing in right here is a garden in the it's a jardin en mouvement. It's a theory that's based on keeping nature as it's supposed to be and only meddling a tiny bit to maintain a balance in the garden. The 3rd garden was a forest garden that was undergoing a rewilding process, and the 4th garden was a traditional jardin à la française in the style of Versailles. And basically, what our focus was during this week was really focusing on the hyper-local and what was available in these 4 different gardens and these 4 different types of soil almost. And create little tasters throughout these gardens. So we took 2 square meters throughout the gardens and created 6 different little tasters. And I'll show you 2 of them. The photo on the left, you can see a tomato essence, which was enhanced with meadowsweet, which is a herb that grows in very wet lands. And they had sort of a big pond area, and the meadowsweet was growing right there, so that's where we served it as well. So you could smell the meadowsweet in the air, but also taste it in the tomato essence, which was enhanced with the meadowsweet. The second one was bite which had several elements that were growing right next to each other. It's a daylily petal with a bit of cheese that we had made with nettles. Instead of using an animal rennet, you can make vegetarian cheese with nettles and ladybed straw, for instance. We had a barberry compote, a bit of a fennel top, and we created these bites in front of an audience and shared this with that audience. And what was lovely about this project was that the audience actually recognized a lot of these plants from their back gardens, and by sharing what you can do with these plants and that you can eat them actually, we basically empowered and inspired in a different way than you're sharing beauty in a different way than it just being around you. So you're enhancing the beauty of nature that's around you in that way. Next project would be an exhibition that the same party, so Jan-Mar van Vlijmen, Ronald Boer from the Onkruidenier, and Celine Pelcé and I were invited to. We got asked to come up with a proposal for an exhibition that was called Kleurrijk, which does translate to colorful, but it's a pun in Dutch. And this was part of the year that Ghent, in Belgium, city in Belgium, celebrated the painter Jan van Eyck, who's like a medieval painter, and it was really well known for his absolutely fantastic use of color and his own mixture in oil paints. And this is the altar piece, which has just been restored. This landscape that has been depicted by Van Eyck is actually a sort of imaginary landscape where he uses several plants that actually don't grow next to each other but belong to completely different countries and different seasons. So this was something that resonated with us because these days we can basically get so many different ingredients throughout the seasons from all over the planet, and that is actually something that he played with but is our reality, which is strange in a way. And basically, for this exhibition, we had 2 experience rooms, and we created fermentation and different products from the elements from the plants that you could see in the paintings. So in a way, we were using the colors that came straight from the painting in our exhibition. And the second experience room was basically we created elements where you could sort of have shared rituals of taking these colors to oneself, basically. So we had shared rituals with the audience in which you could eat the painting almost. The next slide. Since like a year or 4 or 5, there's been a larger interest for this field of food within the arts. As before, it was sort of part of fine art sometimes as more of a conversation, but like recently, bigger institutes have understood that there's actually a place to use food as your medium and not just a common shared thing. And so I was asked to come and coordinate the food lab and set it up partly in Maastricht as part of the Jan van Eyck Academy. And it's funny that the 2 names come back, Jan van Eyck as a painter and Jan van Eyck as an academy. Maastricht is a wonderful city, but the Jan van Eyck is a place where postgraduate artists and researchers and designers come to do a year-long residency. So they focus on their own research during this time. And the food lab allows designers and artists and researchers to focus on their research, but using food as their medium. So this is quite a new concept, actually. So one of the outputs of the food lab is the yearly Food Art Film Festival, and what you can see here is like the first edition in 2018, where we invited people to come and share a conversation around a big table outside. It looked absolutely like really beautiful outside, and what we did is we served vegetables and produce from the direct environment of the academy, and we invited these producers and farmers, and the farmers mostly farm organically, and basically to tell their story at the dinner table, so people could see and talk to the person who grew the food that was on their plate that they were eating in that very moment, and that gave a lot of understanding of someone's journey and how that food actually comes to be on your plate. Another image would be like the work from Yu Young Lee, who was part of the edition of the Food Art Film Festival the year after, and she basically shared Korean recipes and approaches of fermentation, but by using very local ingredients that were wild picked, so foraged. And this was a workshop that was really well visited. And yeah, so by doing so, you're empowering people, you're inspiring, and you're engaging also through conversations during these workshops. And the second image is of a dinner that was during the same Food Art Film Festival edition, and we really try to engage an audience in conversation, and that can be in any way. But the best thing is when it's over shared food and over the enjoyment of good and well prepared food that comes with a story. Then another project would be Celine, who I work with quite often, and I were invited to come to Marble House Project in the United States, in Vermont. And this residency is set in a beautiful, beautiful marble quarry, and we were invited in September to come for 3 weeks. So this is like, everyone knows Vermont for this reason, where the maple leaves start turning colors, and the produce is just overwhelmingly fantastic. So our project was basically focusing on the change of the season. So we were moving from the summer to the fall, and that was what this dinner was about. We basically took the audience from one side of the marble quarry and brought them into like a big barn where the final dinner was. So here you see the pellet cleanser, which came before the dinner, which you see on the right. The pellet cleanser was presented in a little beeswax bowl that we had made on the spot. And we served it with a little bit of maple liqueur inside that was locally made, and some apple and sorrel sorbet that we had made, and a little pinch of pine needle dust on the top, so people could sort of really eat the surroundings once again. And this was followed by a very indulgent dessert with roasted pears and pecan and walnut meringue and lots of custards, and people could just like dig in and enjoy. And this was obviously pre-COVID, but yeah, like people really enjoyed to have like a big shared meal together, and then to really indulge together. Which brings me to my final project that I would like to share, which was in London when I was still living in London, and I basically coached a group of women that were immigrant women in London, and these women were stuck in situations that were like not always easy for them, but then they came to work with us, and this is like not a happy, like not everything is better, but basically I was asked to coordinate and to coach these women and to make them into professional caterers or professional chefs or business owners by giving them tools to use their own background, so their own culinary background, and bring it to a business that was sort of London-proof, where a London market is quite tricky and can be quite difficult to maneuver. But for me, what was important about this was basically it was a collaboration. They taught me so much about their background, about their cultures, and in return, I tried to give them some of my knowledge, and these friendships still last. Now I'm still friends with them, and we still chat, and we still help each other out and share recipes. And I really love that you have, these long-lasting friendships with people that you work with. So, which brings me to my outro. I believe that art has an important role of sharing your message, whether this is through food or any other way, shape, or form, and that I hope that next time you pick up your fork to eat, that you will think of who you want to share it with, where the ingredients came from, how the ingredients were sourced, and how you want to maybe experiment with this experience. And that was it. Thank you so much for listening. Food.